Okay, so dilation's on a coordinate grid to see how our figure transforms. So a dilation is a transformation that changes the size of the figure. Okay, so it'll change. It will get larger. It could get smaller. So that figure can be enlarged or reduced. Therefore, a dilation is an enlargement or a reduction. Okay? And if you didn't know what this symbol means right here, that means therefore. It's a symbol in math. That means therefore. Just saying. Yeah. So, do you think a dilation is an isometry? Remember back to what an isometry is. Would a dilation be an isometry?
Yes. No. Oh, no, it's not.
No, it's not. Okay, it will have a different size. Okay, so an isometry, again, you keep the same size and the same shape. So, yes, it will keep the same shape, but the size will change. So it'll get smaller or it'll get larger. Okay, the new figure may be smaller or larger than the original by a scale factor. And we have talked about scale factors before. Okay, so that scale factor shows you whether it is an enlargement or a reduction. The new figure and the original are similar, so they have the same shape but not the same size. Okay, so remember in chapter 7 when we talked about similar figures, that's where we talked about scale factors previously, where we could see what that scale factor was between our two shapes. So dilations are completed with respect to a center point and a scale factor. Okay, so you have to have this center point to go from. So if point P at coordinate xy is the pre-image of a dilation centered at the origin with a scale factor of r, then the image P prime is at r times x, comma r times y. So you're multiplying both x and y by your scale factor of r. So these you're multiplying. When we were doing translations, you were adding. So with a scale factor, you're multiplying. So to find your scale factor, you're going to take your image length, so your final image that you have, so that prime coordinate, so in this case it would be P prime, that length, over the pre-image, which is P. Okay, so have your prime image over your original pre-image. Okay, so we're going to do an example of this. So we want to state whether the dilation from figure B to B prime is an enlargement or a reduction. So we have to decide whether it's enlarged or reduced. Then find the scale factor of that dilation. Okay, so we have to do both of those things in this problem. So looking at our picture, this should be B prime. It's not labeled there, but it should be B prime. So if I'm going from my pre-image to that image, is that an enlargement or reduction? This is my original going to the image. It is a reduction. Okay, so it's getting smaller, so it's being reduced. Now I need to find the scale factor. So we can go from that center point there, so the origin, okay, and we want to see how long it is to the image first, okay, because we want the image on top, so that image length is on top. So in this case, we'd have 4 over our pre-image length, so all the way up to here. Okay, so since I have 4 to here, and from here to here is 6, I need the entire length there. That would be 10. Okay? So the pre-image length would be 10. And I can reduce this scale factor here. So divide both the numerator and denominator by 2 to get 2/5. Now to make sure that you did it correct, you originally stated that it was a reduction. For a reduction, you should have a smaller fraction, okay? It should be less than 1. Okay, so that fraction should be less than 1. If it's greater than 1, that means it's an enlargement. So make sure you connect those two answers. Questions on example 1? Okay, then I want you guys to do example 2. Make sure you're looking at the picture to see which one is the image and which one is the pre-image. Okay, in order to state what type of dilation it is, and then what the scale factor is.
It's freaking small as hell.
I have college graduation party.
I was like, wait a minute, are you
College
straight?
graduation party.
We're down.
One of 7 Smith just graduated from pharmacy.
Thanks so So you just wanted us to over 3?
Yeah. All right, so example 2, Q prime is right here, meaning that is your image, and Q is right here, so that is your pre-image. So from your pre-image to your image, that figure is getting bigger, so this is an enlargement. Okay? Now for the scale factor, I need the image length, so that prime coordinate length from point C to Q prime is 15. And then I need the pre-image length, so from point C to Q is 5. Okay, and I can reduce this to 3. Okay, so again, for an enlargement, that scale factor is going to be greater than 1. Okay, so make sure you're checking. If you write enlargement, scale factor is greater than 1. If you say it's a reduction, it should be a fraction that is less than 1. Okay, then on the back, to find the coordinates of an image after a dilation centered at the origin, multiply the x and y coordinates of each point on the pre-image by the scale factor of the dilation r. So from x comma y, using that scale factor of r, I'm multiplying the x coordinate by r and the y coordinate by r for each of those points in your pre-image. So for the next 2 problems, I want to graph the image of each polygon with the given vertices after a dilation centered at the origin with the given scale factor. So first I'm going to plot each of these points on my graph. So we have point E at -2, -2. We have point F at -2, 4. G is at 2, 4. And H is at 2, -2. Okay, so here is this rectangular shape. Okay, that is my pre-image. Now for the image, I have a scale factor of 0.5. So I'm going to multiply all of my x and y coordinates by 0.5 to get those prime coordinates. So we'll have -2 times 0.5, comma, -2 times 0.5. Okay, so that new coordinate will be at -1, -1. Okay, same thing with point F. We'll multiply -2 by 0.5 and 4 by 0.5 to get a coordinate of -1, 2. Then with G prime, multiply 2 by 0.5 and 4 by 0.5. So we get 1, 2. Then H prime, multiply 2 by 0.5 and -2 by 0.5 to get 1, -1. Now I can plot each of those points to show that image. So we have -1, -1. Label that E prime. We have -1, 2. That's F prime. 1, 2. That is G prime. And 1, -1 is H prime. Okay, and here would be your image. Okay, you can see that it is then a reduction because you're multiplying each by a number that is less than 1. Questions on number 1 on the back? Okay, then I want you guys to do number 2 if you haven't started it already. All right, so I did do number 2 up on the board. So I have my coordinates there listed off onto the left. And then I have my image plotted on my graph as well. Okay, so this is an enlargement. Your scale factor was greater than 1. So your image should have gotten larger. Questions on dilations?